Hello, welcome to the NUFC360 podcast with me, Jack, and I'm joined by Rob, Daz, and Andy, and we're going to be looking ahead to the 2025-26 season for Newcastle United. It'd be fair to say it's been a weird summer on Tyneside with the Alexander Isak saga basically overshadowing everything. And in pre-season, Newcastle haven't actually won a game yet. But despite that, you would look at the transfer business, and it's actually been pretty decent in the sense of the players have come in of improvements on what Newcastle had. And heading into the new campaign against Aston Villa, there's probably a mixture of positivity and negativity around Newcastle. And we're going to get into it, all of that here this evening. So, lads, how are you all doing, first of all?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jack. Thanks very much.
Very well, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've kind of got to start with the Alexander Isak saga, haven't we? Because if we look at
Do we have to?
Unfortunately, Daz, I think we do, because it has totally dominated Newcastle's summer. I mean, if you look at all of the major media outlets have been talking about it non-stop. You know, they've all had their opinion on it. And I think the point of view is that ultimately, for me, I'm not that bothered that he does actually want to go to Liverpool. I can actually totally appreciate that and understand that Newcastle are not on the level of Liverpool. And maybe as a club, never will be. Certainly as a team, we're not that far behind. But as a club, you know, maybe not. Liverpool have just won the Premier League. I understand it. I think it's just the way he's gone about it is totally, you know, a slap in the face of Eddie Howe and the fans and everyone. And, you know, we really have some serious discussions about his agent and the way he's gone on, because he's getting paid at the moment to do absolutely nothing. And of course, we have the latest view that he's not going to play for us ever again, even if the transfer window closes. So I will open the floor out to anyone who wants to have their say on our sulky Swede.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think I've never had a problem with him wanting to leave. Like, if a player doesn't want to play for Newcastle, he wants to go on to a different club, that's totally fine. But it's just the way he's done it. It's just the way that he's gone about sulking, refusing to play.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a genuine injury that he had. I'm not sure, but
I'm thinking that is absolute nonsense. I think
I
think that was very much smoke and mirrors situation. That one.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree. I think if he came out in June, July, and just said, "Right, lads, I've had a great 3 years with you. I think I'm ready for the next step," and that would have been fine if he'd acted respectively and just gentleman handshake, see you later, all the best, and that's it. But it's just gone very sour quite quickly as well over the last month and a half ish. Quite disappointing as well, to be fair. I didn't think Isak was that kind of person, but it is what it is.
No, I agree. I agree, Rob, and I think that when you look at the way that it's been handled, I don't think it's been handled very well. I don't think he's been advised particularly greatly. That's something that's been at the forefront of my thoughts. I do agree with you both. I think Liverpool as a club are a legacy club, and they're a notch or two above where we are currently as a club. But as a team, as you said, Jack, as well, I think we're not that far behind if you look at starting 11s. So I just personally, I think he's been advised really, really poorly, and I try not to listen too much to what's being put out there on social media and the news and stuff. And I do get the feeling that a lot of it is very much media led. I think a couple of the here we go journalists very much being very appreciative of some checks being sent their way by certain clubs. And yeah,
we have to make the point straight away that is not that we have no understanding that that's the truth, but that's just
no, that's just my personal opinion. I don't want to get sued. Yeah. Apologies. That's just my opinion.
I think that for me, the situation we're in now is we've got to think about the precedent that this sets when you, as a player, come to want to leave Newcastle. The reality is, I suppose, with PSR, we are hamstrung in such a way that we can't keep pace with the ambition of Alexander Isak. It's a shame, but there we are. But for me, a lot of players will be who play for us now and maybe wouldn't have signed for us in future. Will be looking at like what does this get him? If he downs tools and the message is, well, if you do that, you'll wipe 30-40 million off your transfer fee, and you'll get the move that you want, then that is a really dangerous precedent to set to the likes of Tonali, to the likes of Bruno, who might we might also struggle to keep pace with eventually. So that is the worry for me, is what does this say? And then the other thing I think that my major takeaway so far is what Eddie Howe's kind of management of this situation.
Another level.
It's superb.
Really, really strong how he's managed it, and that he's keeping the door. He's sort of keeping the door open as to whether he ends up having to reintegrate him at some point. But he's also set a really clear message that nobody at the moment is bigger than the club. So that's I would say that's my reading of the situation at the moment.
No, really, really good point about the precedent. So I think we'll move on from Isak in a little bit. But first of all, want to get your answers on two questions. First of all, do you think he'll still be a Newcastle player at the end of the transfer window? And then secondly, and probably more importantly, do you want him to still be a Newcastle player at the end of the transfer window? So again, I'll open the floor to anyone on that one.
No, I don't. I don't want him to be, just because of the way he's acted. But I also think he'll be sold. I do think he'll be sold one way or another. I think 120 plus add-ons will probably do it, in all honesty, because I think
that's that dangerous precedent that Andy was talking about, though, isn't it? You know, that's his price dropped.
And I know, but if the add-ons achievable and over the length of his contract and they add up to 150, then it's kind of a PR move from both clubs, so you could see it from their point of view. Liverpool, we got it down, but then Newcastle go, well, we've got the 150 fee that we wanted. Personally, if he was to come out tomorrow and say, listen, I hold my hand up, sack my agent or whatever like that, and I apologise, I'm going to be fully focused to the season ahead, great. Him and Haaland and probably Lewandowski are the three best strikers, out-and-out strikers in the world for me. So who wouldn't want that player to be there?
Yeah, that's fair. Andy or Rob, whoever wants to go next.
I would say sorry. I was going to say, I thought the chances of him being there, I'd say at the moment feel 60-40. I would just lean towards the probability that he will, because I don't see, if Liverpool knocking down the door at the moment with a second bid, whether they're biding their time, I don't know. But there's so many loops he'd have to jump through to get that deal done, us having a replacement, etc., that I think it's more likely that doesn't get done for me. The other thing I think is, when you say, would you want him here? Well, when you compare him to what we've got at the moment and the reality of playing Ursula or Gordon through the middle, then yes, I absolutely would. Even if he phones it in at 70%, I still think that's a preferable situation. The only way I'd ever want him to have moved on is if we've got a meaningful, decent replacement. And when you look around the market, Sesko's gone, Ekatike's gone. Who's out there that we could get that's available for transfer that's a half decent replacement for him? And I think that's a really small field if there's anyone.
Yeah. I just don't think there's enough time for us to get a replacement now. I think if there was a deal there to be done, I think it would have been done last month. But I think with 2 weeks left of the transfer window, we're not daft. We're not going to. I don't see us selling him in the next 2 or 3 weeks left of the window. And I don't think Liverpool, like you said, I don't think they come back with a second bid. Maybe next summer, maybe January at the earliest. But I just think with all the factors in now, with it being the 15th of August on Friday, first game of the season, I don't see the timing. There's not the timing for it. There's no replacement, like you said, Andy, as well. There's no replacement out there that can replace Isak. And on a pure footballing terms, I would want him to stay, but I just think he's let the team down, he's let the fans down, he's let the manager down. But I think if we're being totally selfish on footballing terms, then I think we haven't really got a choice but to keep him at this point.
Yeah. And
what's your opinions then, Jack, on that?
Yeah. So I think you sum it up perfectly in the sense of, look, football fans, we're fickle, right? We are. Like, I don't think any of us will ever forget what Isak's done or ever see Isak in the same light as maybe a Bruno or a Joe Linton or a Dan Burn. When I think if you look maybe 3 months ago, he certainly had the chance of being that. He certainly had the chance, in my view, of being Newcastle's top Premier League goal scorer ever and passing Shearer. Like, it was the potential of, like, I'm on about not Shearer's overall Premier League record, I'm on about Shearer's Newcastle record.
Well, if he stays his whole career at the age he is, he could have done.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, and I always felt like Isak wasn't going to leave this summer because I didn't think any of this would happen. I didn't see him as this sort of person at all. But equally, look, if he comes back, he does his celebration when he scores a goal against someone, and then we go on and have a brilliant season, and then he moves on in the summer. Look, as I say, he won't be seen as the same at all. But I think we will ultimately, we will probably sort of accept it for what it is. And it ultimately, what's more important, Newcastle being in a good position next summer to kick on again and not be in a position where we're going to potentially lose Tonali or a Gordon to a similar sort of thing. And, have this summer and have this situation be so damaging because of the season coming up. Or is it more important to, hate Alexander Isak? Well, no, the most important thing is Newcastle being healthy and being a successful football club. So I think that's my view. Again, I don't think it'll ever be the same view. I'll never see him as in the same light. But we are fickle as football fans. We just are. And as soon as
do you think the sort of second thoughts and doubts might be starting to creep into his mind at this moment in time, that if Liverpool valued you that highly, and if you were the big hope for their future, would they not be knocking down the door with second and third bids? Would they have signed Ekitike? I think
they've got other positions of need. Centre back is a big position of need for Liverpool. If you actually look at their squad depth, they've got rid of Quansah for inflated fee, in my opinion. Got Joe Gomez. He's injured always seems to be injured. And then you've got Konate, who all cards are pointing to the fact that he's going to go and join Madrid for free next summer. And Van Dijk's aging, so they need some centre backs, not just one. They need two.
Yeah, they have agreed a deal today for Parma's Giovanni Leone. So has
that been agreed? Has it?
Yeah, that's been agreed. So that's happening. Gahey doesn't look like it's necessarily going to happen, but yeah, I think with Liverpool ultimately, I'm not sure they actually need Isak anymore. Now they've got Ekitike. They probably need a winger to replace Luis Diaz and maybe another sort of forward. But Isak and Ekitike aren't going to play in the same team for Liverpool because they're not going to sacrifice their midfield solidity, and they're not going to sacrifice sort of Salah, because you'd sacrifice Salah then if you have Isak and Ekitike. More creative work maybe than he would do now, where he gets into position to score the goals. So I think that's where we are with the Alexander Isak situation. So let's have a look at Newcastle's transfer situation as a whole, because if you look at all of the media outlets and etc., it's rejected FC. There's 11s being put out of players that have turned us down, and I think there's the perception from many people that it has been a shambolic transfer window for Newcastle. And I think there is some merit to that, because it's maybe not lived up to what it could have been. However, overall, when you look at the signings so far, and then if we're assuming that Johan Vissa and Jacob Ramsey join, then Newcastle are in a much stronger position than they were last season. So I'm going to go with Rob first. What is your view on the transfer window so far, and what's the view also on this perception that it's been, a summer of rejections?
Yeah, well, firstly, the rejection thing, I think it's just a load of rubbish, to be honest. I think we only actually put in bids for about 2 or 3 players we were linked with, I believe, Trafford and Pedro, from what I remember. It might be
and then Šeško and Ekitike, yeah. So they're the 4.
I mean, we were linked with a lot of players, but that doesn't mean that we were in contact with the players. Doesn't mean that we were speaking to them every day and wanting to sign them. And they've gone. The players that we were linked with, they've gone on to like Chelsea, they've gone to Liverpool, they've gone to Man City. So it's not like we're being rejected by a championship club, or sorry, it's not like I'm being rejected for them to go to a championship club. We're being rejected, and they've gone on to play for Liverpool, Chelsea instead, which is, it's just this football. Transfer window, I think we've addressed the issues. I think we've strengthened, I think, in the position that we've needed to. Right winger was always it's been a priority for years now. So I think it was good to get Elanga in. Again, goalkeeper. I mean, Nick Pope, he can make some amazing saves, but he can make mistakes at the same time. So I think getting a keeper in was important.
It's just his kicking, isn't it?
Even though we have got about 6 of them anyways. Yeah. I think centre back as well. Obviously,
Although
last summer.
Sorry, Rob, but I was there for the Atletico game, and his distribution actually wasn't that bad. He came out of goal at what? He came out of goal. Popes, yeah. He actually came out of goal at one point, and nearly fell over the football. But he didn't act from any by kicks or dead balls. He didn't actually kick them out of play. So that's progress.
He might have been practicing on the training ground, but no, I think. I think it seems like it's picking up now as well. I think with the Jacob Ramsey news last night, and I know Wissa's gone a bit quiet, but I do think he will still sign eventually. So I do think it's stronger than last season. I think our squad, if we go for like, we're replacing Wilson for Wissa. We're going to be replacing Longstaff and or Willock for Jacob Ramsey. So I think it's going to have a good end to it. I do think we'll sign 2 or 3 more players, hopefully. But I don't think it's been as like rejected FC. I don't buy into that whole
that's
stuff.
fair. Andy?
Yeah.
I would say so far I'd give our business around about a 5 out of 10. I think we're in the category of some solid.
Is this the 3 signings so far? We're not including Ramsey.
Yeah, based on where we've gotten to. I suppose I'm including Jacob Ramsey in that. I'm imagining that if we get that business done, I would agree with Rob about the key position to upgrade in was right wing. I think as much as I love Murphy, I think he had a season of overperforming, and I wouldn't necessarily trust that that's going to be a long-term thing. Who have we picked up? You've picked up the guy. Did he finish 2nd in the league or 3rd in the league in terms of assists? So we've now got in terms, and so when you combine him and Murphy, you've got the 2nd and 3rd highest assisters in the league that you've picked up there. I feel like we've put a bit of a sticking plaster over the goalkeeper situation, because I think if Trafford was available, or if somebody who was a more natural goal player,
he might be next summer.
With Donnarumma. Yeah,
Donnarumma goes. He might be by the end of the week if Donnarumma goes to Man. But if we had a natural ball playing goalkeeper option available, you're probably thinking, well, we'd go for them. I think we've gone, well, we can't do that. Let's keep Pope. Let's give him some competition, and let's go from there. But I feel like the key, not to return to our old friend Alex, I suppose the key now as to whether we progress from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 out of 10 is how do we resolve this striking situation? Because starting Gordon through the middle, starting Osalula, that's not going to get you Champions League. It's not going to. I think that needs resolving ASAP, because at the end of the day, look how close we were to not getting the Champions League last season. It was goal difference. And if you pick up 2 points out of the first 4 games or something like that, then you've really hamstrung yourself already. You could be 10th, you could be 12th. So I think the key is that it's not rocket science, but we cannot enter this season or go too far into the season without picking up a striker.
Yep, that's absolutely fair. I think with the points one, I think obviously if you look at last season, I think after about 15 games, we had 5 wins, 5 draws and 5 defeats. It was just obviously the second half of the season was absolutely unbelievable. That's why we got in the Champions League. It was a pretty poor start of last season, to be fair.
But are we going to do that again when we're in the Champions League this season?
I know that's the thing. No, that is the question, isn't it? And we will have to see. Daz, what are your views on the transfer window so far? And also like the idea about the rejections, etc.
So the rejection FC stuff, I've saw it as well. The 11s that have come out and things like that. And I know that Rob touched on it earlier, and I think we've maybe only officially made bids for 3 or 4 of those players. If I might even be overreaching there. I think I entered the window like many Newcastle fans, full of hope that this might have been a transformational window for us. And it may still be a transformational window. We may just not be looking to sign, or we haven't signed those marquee players that, and I don't like using this term, but the legacy clubs, the ones that have got that history, the modern history, that are able to go and pay Mbeumo £250,000 a week, and he's not going to come to us for that sort of money. And then the likes of Sesko, they don't grow up wanting to play for Newcastle United. Hopefully kids that are maybe 10, 11 now, when they're Sesko's age, or wanting to come and play for us. But I do think that the past week or so has lifted my hope. I'm a very optimistic fan. And I just think that with the signing of Thiaw confirmed, it looks very likely that Ramsey's going to come on board. Also, the whole Vista thing, but there's a domino effect with Bournemouth needing a striker. Brentford needing a striker, and because then it just falls onto us. And I still think there's another striker required, even if Isak stays and we sign Vista. I would like another striker, because ideally I'd like to send Osul out on loan. I think he needs a full season of competitive football to even look as though he can reach the level to play for us regularly. So I just think that there's still time left in the window. I know the season starts on Saturday, which we're going to touch on, but I'm optimistic again.
Yeah. That's good. Well, to be fair, lads, I think you made some really valid points there about the transfer window, because, I've seen certain, maybe views from some Newcastle fans that are rather, basically that it's been a catastrophe of a window. And, clearly when you actually think about it in a balanced point of view, that's not the case even remotely. So with all that in mind, let's have a look to what we believe is going to happen to our season. Where Newcastle are going to finish in the Premier League, how we're going to do in the Champions League, and equally, is there going to be another domestic cup run? So let's start with Daz. Why not? Just a quick, where do you think Premier League prediction? Go on, and then also say how we do in the Champions League.
Right, I've done a little bit of research on this. So the 3 full seasons that Eddie's had in charge, we've hit 71, 60 and 66 points. So this averages out at 66 points. So if we were just to hit 66 points, which is very doable with the team that we've got, I've looked at where that would get us over the last 3 years in the Premier League.
This is going in depth. You don't get this anywhere.
Yeah. So because to be fair, I thought if everyone, we've got to be lucky with injuries. We've got more games. I thought 5th or 6th. Mm-hmm. And then I've done a little bit of research on it, and if we get 66 points is what we've averaged under Eddie, the last 3 seasons, 66 points has been 6th, 5th, and 5th. So if we're in and around that region again, I'll be delighted. I'm going to be completely honest, because you look at Arsenal have spent money again, Liverpool have spent money, City never stop spending money, Chelsea, I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how they do it, but they're allowed to do it.
Because loads of teams buy their absolute garbage players. I mean, Burnley have just spent £40 million on Ugochukwu and Broya. So, do you know what I mean? Like, this is how Chelsea get away.
Yeah. But I actually saw something online that Jarell Hato was their 49th signing in the last 4 years. And if you go back 49 signings for Newcastle, it was Rule Fox.
To be fair, I think that's wrong, because like
I know it probably is, but I'd seen it and it made me giggle. It did. But going on about the Champions League, looking at the last campaign, I thought we were very lucky not to finish 3rd and go into the Europa League with that dodgy penalty decision in Paris. And I think that the new format might actually favour us a little bit more, because we can get more home games at home under the lights at St James's Park. And we saw what we did to Milan and PSG. Dortmund actually came over and played us very well at St James's. So I just like us to compete. I just want us to compete and to show players around Europe and around the world what we're about, so that when the summer comes and we finish 5th or 6th, we can then entice these players to come and play for us, to help us build on and go further and further. But yeah, I'd be 5th or 6th. I think I'd be delighted with a Champions League. I really would. I just think that this season, the other teams above us that I mentioned earlier, I think they're just ultimately going to pull away. I think this season's going to be a 3 or 4 horse race for the title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Andy, are you in the same boat as Daz?
Well, I'm certainly not in the same boat as Daz in terms of having done as much research as he has. But I feel like
It was 5 minutes on my phone, Andy. It was 5 minutes on my phone.
well, it's 5 minutes more than I spent, mate. So I would say Eddie Howe's pulled a rabbit out of the hat the last few seasons with the finances, with everything he's competing against. And I feel like at the end of the day, when you compare what's been spent by other clubs, money's going to count at some point. And particularly when we're trying to compete on 4 different fronts, I do wonder at the moment whether we're going to end up in some kind of situation where we finish probably 6th. But that's, for me, dependent on if we end up in leaving this kind of Isak stalemate as it is. If we don't replace him, if that situation continues to sort of linger on into later on in the season, that's when I think probably 6th. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think if you're trying to try and compete in the Champions League, that's a pretty healthy performance. In terms of in the Champions League, I would agree with Daz about how the new format suits us, albeit we're going to be a pot 4 team. So that means that I think you get one other pot 4 team, don't you?
No, you play 2 pot 1 teams, 2 pot 2 teams, 2 pot 3 teams, and 2 pot 4 teams. So it doesn't actually matter if you're a pot 4 team anymore.
Whether you're a pot 4 team yourself. I thought we okay, fair enough. Well,
it's 2 of each. It's 2 of each pot.
Yeah. That's how Villa, did so well.
I would take that playoff round just to get the buzz of knockout football in the Champions League right now. If you offered me that, I think that if you finish in that kind of mid category where it's seeded, isn't it, and you end up playing, if you finish at the bottom of that, you play the teams that play towards the top of that. I think that would constitute success as far as I'm concerned. When you compare it to the fact that we didn't disgrace ourselves by any means last time we were in the Champions League, but just to say, like St James's Park under the lights, knockout football in the Champions League, I think that would be really solid. And yeah, you roll the dice. You never know how you do, but I would take that right now. I think the other thing that would be nice to see is it's probably been a while. Well, it has been a while since we've kicked on really far in the FA Cup. We've obviously won the League Cup, and I feel like maybe for us, I would target the FA Cup domestically in terms of cup competitions, and it would be really nice to see us semi-final, final of that. Who knows? Maybe even win it. I feel like that maybe is something where you'd say that's the next logical step. You've won the League Cup. The league, unfortunately, and Champions League are probably going to be out of touch. Why not throw everything at that and say, let's give that a bloody good go? And I think we could do it.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I love all those, to be fair. And then Rob.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think best case scenario, we'll finish 5th and England do well again in the coefficients, which gets us an extra Champions League spot. But I do think it'll be probably 6th or 7th. I think it'll be European football again, but I think the top 4 is more or less already sorted. I think it's going to be Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. So I think it is going to be like the 4-horse race for 5th between us, Tottenham, Man U, and Villa, possibly. But I would absolutely take 6th place now in a good cup run. And with the Champions League, I think the bottom 8 are eliminated completely. And I mean, no disrespect to the other teams in the Champions League, but I don't see us finishing in the bottom 8 to be knocked out of Europe completely. I do think we'll get in one of the playoff rounds, whether it's the first playoff round or it's a bye into the next round. And yeah, I think we've got 4 home games and 4 away games in the Champions League. I think that's massive. And I think you touched on it there with Villa last season. I think they played some teams that I think you would have been very favourable for playing. I think I would have taken their fixtures in their league phase. And
then they got like Bayern at home and stuff.
Bayern,
do you know what
Juventus,
I mean?
I think I remember they played Bayern.
They got them at home. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had young boys. Might have had Salzburg. I think someone like that. So yeah, and they got the quarterfinals. I mean, there's no reason why we can't do that if we had a favourable draw in the Champions League.
And they got beat off the winners.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they pushed them very far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
it was a late goal.
Yeah. And I think in terms of domestic wise as well, I think again, I like Andy said, I would like to see us go for a cup. I think with us being in Europe as well, we do enter the League Cup at the 3rd round, so I think there's only 16 teams left at that point, 32 teams left at that point when we come into it. So there's not actually that many rounds to win before the final of the League Cup. So yeah, I think we've got a great chance of going for the cups. I think we've got kind of the squad depth at certain positions for it. And I think I would like to see us go for a cup. But I think 6th place, knockout stages of the Champions League, and then a cup running either or both. If we're being totally greedy.
Why
yeah,
not?
No.
why
No,
not?
but what? No,
Reach,
it's like, but what's
reach for the
clear.
stars,
Look at
Rob.
Palace
Reach
winning
for
the
the
FA
stars.
Cup. I mean,
No, but what's clear is everyone feels, despite the fact that, you know, if you listen to all of the outside noise about Newcastle, that as Newcastle fans, we're all feeling pretty positive about this season, you know, even despite what's going on. And, you know, for me, I'll quickly do mine. I feel like however, depend on the transfer window, how it ends, I still think Newcastle are potentially better than Arsenal or Chelsea. So I could see us finishing above one of those two, which would get us in the top 4.
Ooh.
Then, but equally, I think Newcastle should just go all out for the domestic cups because, you know, winning that trophy, you know, was just meant so much to all of us. And I think it would, again, mean so much to us again if we could win the Carabao Cup again or win the FA Cup, because ultimately, you know, as Newcastle fans, we never thought we'd win anything. Realistically, you know, if you think about the Mike Ashley days, whatever, even when the takeover happened, yeah, you've got dreams, but until it actually happens, you know, you don't know what it feels like. And I want that feeling again. And I'm pretty sure everyone else wants that feeling again. And I feel like Eddie Howe will target those competitions heavily and seriously. So if I was that, I'd go. And then the Champions League, I do think Newcastle will finish anywhere between 8th and 24th, which gets us in the playoff round. And as you say, a cheeky bit of knockout football, which would be brilliant. Anyway, so it's been absolutely brilliant, lads. I think we've absolutely covered the season perfectly. The summer, great. What I really appreciate from all of you is your reasoned responses, and there's been no rational reaction to what's been going on. So I think that's been great. And you know, Newcastle fans sometimes get a bad name, but this was a really good discussion, really great. And then let's look ahead. Right, Newcastle, the next time we meet, we would have smashed Aston Villa 4-0. Jacob Ramsey with the double. Remember to like, subscribe, NUFC360. We will see you later.